Hello, everyone. This is Kelly Beard of KarmicTools.com, and tonight is our monthly Power Circle community call where we pick a subject to cover that is important. And tonight it's going to be Jupiter and Uranus initiating a new cycle in Taurus. But first, I want to invite our benevolent angels and loving ancestors, personal animal guides, and helping spirits to be with us tonight. We each have a powerful invisible team of support, and it's even more potent when we bring them together like this. I want you to take an initial deep breath in, connecting above, below, and at the heart. Deep breath in. And hold and release. I want you to start at the heart chakra, opening to receive this night that which is just for you. Breathing as if you're breathing through and from your heart and picturing a beautiful emerald green crystal there, spinning brightly. Here we're going to start with honoring the direction of east, an initiation point where we access the inner wisdom of the mind and we activate the element of air. So, like I said, picture that emerald green spinning brightly, infused from within, and take a deep cleansing breath in, expanding the heart. And hold a minute. Going down to your power center where we honor the direction of south, a culmination point, and where we access the inner wisdom of the spirit and we activate the element of fire. Here I want you to picture your favorite shade of golden yellow crystal infused with light from within and spinning brightly. And take a deep cleansing breath in, connecting to your I am presence. Deep breath in. And hold and release. Come on down to the creative center. This is where we honor the direction of west, a completion point, and where we access the inner wisdom of the soul and activate the element of water. Here I want you to connect to your creative center, your creative flow, energetic flow, and cash flow. Emotional flow is very critical here. Picture your favorite shade of orange crystal infused with light from within and spinning brightly, and take a deep cleansing breath in right there. And hold and release. Come on down to the root chakra. This is where we honor the direction of north, a conception point, and where we access the inner wisdom of the body. And we activate the element of earth, and we be here now. So everyone plug in to your quality nutrient at your root chakra, picturing that beautiful ruby red crystal infused with light from within and spinning brightly. And take a deep breath in at your root. And hold and release. Okay, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So glad you could be with me tonight. We are covering a very special alignment. Jupiter hooks up with Uranus every 12 years, but it's not always in Taurus. So we are going to dig into all three so that you understand what it means to kind of work with each of these planets. Jupiter's a social planet, Uranus is a collective planet, but most of you know that my focus is all about the individual. I feel like if the individuals get it together, the globe will be okay. So I always bring it back down to what we can do as individuals with these energies, and this is a huge initiation in our Taurus department that is very, very rare, kind of once in a lifetime for us, depending on how long you live. If you make it past 84, you might get another shot at this. But for the most part, I think everyone on this call is definitely underage, as it were. So basically, I'm going to go through Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus, and then we've got some juicy guidance from divinations and extra juju to play with. That was extremely wonderful. So we're going to start with Jupiter, because that's the easy one. Jupiter in Taurus, the last time it was there was 2011, 2012. Before that was 99 to 2000. So you can keep clocking backwards every 12 years. Jupiter makes its way around to Taurus. And the next time will be 2035, 36. So here we are kicking off a new 12-year cycle that we've just come through and completed. You know, endings and new beginnings are always together like that. So for Jupiter, It's good to take advantage of any time that Jupiter touches your chart because you can take advantage of the expansion of your consciousness. It is a benefactor, and it is only there to reveal excesses and help you improve whatever area of life, which is the house. In this case, the Taurus house is going to be the star of the show. So when you're consciously co-creating with Jupiter, you are consciously working on your inner belief system and your outer story, the story that you're telling with your choices. Whenever Jupiter stimulates your planets, it is expanding the possibilities for you and asking you to think bigger or more long-term or more expansive in some kind of way. It is lighting up an area that you have either already learned about or it wants you to learn about now. Either way, your consciousness will expand, your story will shift, and hopefully you'll be inspired to be more faithful going forward because you have more life experience and earned wisdom to draw from that has strengthened and fortified your faith over time. Okay, Jupiter rules what we believe to be true or possible. It has a 12-year cycle that moves in 3-year increments, and it spends about 1 year in each sign. Jupiter represents learning and teaching through adventures, exploring, theater, games, and storytelling. So what's your story? What has it been for the last 3, 6, 9, and 12 years? What story do you want to tell for the upcoming cycle? Jupiter is also the researcher, the truth sayer, and the truth seeker, and is all about making meaning out of your experiences and the available information. It also tends to provoke you to keep your own counsel. Going within to connect with the deepest and most authentic truth for you is wherever Jupiter resides for you, okay? So for me, Jupiter's in Virgo in the 9th house. How much more priestessy could it get? It's all consciousness and priestess work. And wherever that lives is kind of where you are constantly learning and teaching and doing things with Jupiter. But it's also where you want to keep your own counsel. You know, I've never been cut out for organized religion, so that changed the game there too. Once you've connected to your own individual truth, then sharing your personal story is or can be your offering to the universe. Have you ever heard the saying, your life is God's gift to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God? Jupiter is also considered a benefactor, and when it is in contact with your chart, even when challenging, you often receive blessings and rewards. Where you have to earn it with Saturn, with Jupiter, there's more benevolence and good karma and positive outcomes involved. So we love Jupiter because Jupiter comes through and expands our consciousness and gets us looking at the different possibilities and activating our imagination and getting us engaged like that. But then Saturn is a little bit of a tag team. It comes behind Jupiter a couple of years later and asks us to make things real. So those two we work with a lot. That's why it's so special to be working with Uranus, because now we're getting cracked open to a whole new level of consciousness in addition to whatever else Jupiter was trying to teach us along the way. So here, when Jupiter in the sky touches Jupiter in your chart, or in this case, we're looking at the transit up in the sky that's affecting all of us, it's always an opportunity to release that which is no longer true for you and free yourself from beliefs which no longer serve your current evolved purpose. This also helps you remember that truth is fluid, and it changes as you evolve and learn more about yourself and the world. Because Jupiter will spend more time in some houses and less in others, its presence is helping point out the areas of life that require the most attention in your life. So right now, we're finishing up by May. We're going to be finished with a year's worth of work in the Taurus department with Jupiter. And then it's going to move into Gemini, and we're going to touch on that as well. So it's when and where you tend to shift your generally accepted beliefs and philosophies because you've learned and evolved over the last 3, 6, 9, or 12 years. It is a good thing to question your fundamental beliefs periodically and ask yourself if you still really believe certain things, because very often you do not. Okay, as we grow in consciousness, what we believe to be true or possible shifts as well. Another way to feel Jupiter is that you learn something new, expand in some way every year. And by the 3rd year, your consciousness evolves and you get to integrate all that you've learned, basically in preparation for the next 3 years of learning and education. In other words, there is a pivot point in your story. Something changes because of your earned wisdom and evolved consciousness. So just what have you learned in the last year in Taurus? What have you learned in the last 3 years through your fixed areas of life? You know, let's think in those terms of 3, 6, 9, and 12. And know that that pivot point that's happening, if you have Jupiter in Taurus, Scorpio, or Leo, Aquarius, and this is very personal and direct experience, for the rest of it, it rules those areas of life. So it still means that Jupiter's going to pass through there once every 12 years. So we want to learn how it works and how it feels when it's there. Because you've changed, you've grown, again, because it's Jupiter, we can count on some blessings as well. So right now we have an opportunity to review the last 12-year cycle and choose what story you'd like to tell over the upcoming 12-year cycle. And one of the blessings of Jupiter, too, is to look back over the pivot points, which will be in your post-call goodies as well, for years that you can reflect on for these kind of, let's say, energies that show up. When it's fixed signs, we want to anchor permanently or release permanently. So a lot of times it's very personal when any planet goes through those zones. But Jupiter is expanding our consciousness, and I would remind you that the fixed signs are also where we do a lot of our self-love, self-worth work. So remembering that Leo's your authentic self and being able to shine your light, and Aquarius is offering your unique contribution and being different in a good way. Taurus is your creature comforts and personal security and what you feel like you're worth in a very literal way, quality food, quality housing and clothes and things like that. And then feeling like you have any sense of power or purpose at all is all tied to our self-love and self-worth. So at the very least, we should be cracking open on that. We should be going to the next level there. And we're going to talk about, ways we could do that. With Jupiter, it's also a good idea to pay attention. In your own life, you could track your ages and stages, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, like that, because every 12 years we upgrade, we tell a new story. But we also now have got a nice little body of education under our belt, life experience and things like that. Like I basically will not read children in terms of astrology and readings until they're 12 or older, because they need a full Jupiter cycle to form their own consciousness before they go into anything like this. Not that I don't talk to parents about younger children and their layouts and their aspects and things. I definitely do that. But in terms of a one-on-one reading, I wouldn't really do that for anyone. Most of the time, they're about 14. They're at their Saturn midpoint when they want something like this. So right now, I want you all thinking about dreaming of the future, making future plans, expanding your field of knowledge, maybe going back to school. In Taurus's case, we would think herbs and gardening and growing things, cultivation and things like that. Improving your life on one or many levels. We're going to seek a deeper truth, wisdom, and understanding of nature herself, of Mother Earth, and how it works. And all of this we've been in the process of, and now it's going to shift to Gemini, which is going to give us a whole new set of learning to do. So we want to get this under our belt because it's preparing us for the next thing. With Jupiter, it usually activates us to take risks that build character. It helps us be our most optimistic and enthusiastic. With Jupiter, we're always asking, how is this perfect? Even if it was a tragedy and it was awful, what is this experience really good for, and how can we get the good out of it? Jupiter's always looking for that silver lining. Connecting to a larger, more philosophical perspective. So if you are thinking about rewriting your personal story, then think about the social collective story and how you can tie yours together and make it even more valuable and expand your own reach as to who you can teach and share and learn with. We activate our spiritual quest with Jupiter. We access a truth and purpose, and we get what I call your PhD in you, because whatever Jupiter is expanding for you, it's about your consciousness and, again, what you believe to be true or possible. So it's really not about other people or what other people think. The shadow side of working with Jupiter has to do with that blind spot, being unrealistic, overextending yourself, making things bigger, exaggeration. In humans, it shows up as self-righteousness and excesses of all kinds. So deep breath. We want to watch out for that blind spot as well. And many of you have heard my Jupiter Sagittarius prayer, and that is, thank you, God, for revealing my blind spot in time to cultivate a positive, effective response, because I don't want to be reactive and I don't want to be overwhelmed and I don't want to do the freeze, fight or flight type of thing. I want to cultivate my response and be able to respond to whatever life is presenting. By the same token, Jupiter's so big, we can miss a hidden potential as well. So that prayer goes both ways. Thank you, God, for revealing the hidden potential in this situation, in this choice or decision we have, whatever it may be. With Jupiter, it's always a blind spot or a hidden potential that we're looking for there. So deep breath. Now, Uranus is a whole nother ball of wax because, like we said, it's a collective planet. It's an 84-year cycle that moves in 7-year increments, though. So this is where it ends up being useful to us because a lot of us are already trained and conditioned to 7-year cycles. So what we do with Uranus, and I've been tracking for quite a while now, y'all, how it feels to have Uranus in each house by house. And looking at, it's really good to go back and reflect on the 7 years before now when it was in Aries, and the 7 years before that when it was in Pisces, and the 7 years before that when it was in Aquarius. So just know that it takes 7 years to kind of crack us open, wake us up to that next level, and activate the Uranus things that we can take advantage of in terms of, as individuals with this collective planet, it gets a little trickier, right? So with Uranus in the sky will affect your chart directly, but it is a little more rare than the other personal and social planets. It will move through its own cycle over an 84-year period that moves in 7-year increments. But it's best to pay attention to its transits in your chart. When you are consciously co-creating with Uranus, you are consciously working on your own individuality and personal liberation. Uranus activates your individuality, unique genius, and authentic self. It is a spark that few ever recognize, but when you do, you are never the same again. This is what they mean like by that lightning strike. Have you ever noticed when it lights up the sky, but it's only for a split second? You can see everything so clearly, and then it's back to darkness. So we say when Uranus is touching you or moving things around in the sky, activating us on these levels like it is this month, then we don't want to fall back asleep. We want to take whatever awakenings we have, whatever ahas that come, and not slip back into old habits and patterns. It activates all kinds of other things. We will get into a list of bullets here in a minute. But basically, this is the higher mind, right? Mercury is the lower octave. Uranus is the higher octave of your consciousness, of your mind, of your intellect, or your intelligence. And everyone has their own kind of unique intelligence, right? Unique genius that you came with naturally. That's the Uranus that we're talking about. So when you wake up and you're never the same again, basically it speaks only to that higher self within you, and it revels in shaking things up so that you realize that there are infinite possibilities for you and just as many dimensions in the universe. So Uranus is often the source of any sudden realizations that change you, also known as aha moments. Uranus activations are always a liberating ordeal in some way, okay? So they're not easy. It's usually an ordeal. But it's like you're better off on the other side of it, so we don't fight it and we don't delay or deny it. They free you from the old and crack you open to a whole new perspective. But then you have to turn to the other planets to help you integrate the changes into your life. Try to use Uranus to change whatever you are ready, willing, and able to change, especially if it's activating your chart. You will get more done in a short time than you can ever imagine. Uranus spends 7 years in a sign creating what we call that liberating ordeal, right? It happens in that department. So what's been going on in your Taurus department? Because it is almost done there too. And what has been moving your values around? Like that's the way I see it. I see in the Taurus department, it's shifted the values, and it'll end up affecting you in whatever house that is, which is the area of life. So mine is 6th house of daily routine, and everything has changed in the last 7 years behind that because I hit empty nest. So now it's a whole different rhythm and routine. So wherever it's been in Taurus digging up in your chart, that's where it's like, again, you're better off on the other side, but it's not easy because you have to change so many things that have become, ingrained patterns. And so this is what Uranus is best for. It shakes things up and disrupts the natural order. Now, not everyone lives to see the age of 84, so not everyone gets the benefit of it moving through all 12 houses. But it's totally worth paying attention to where it has been in your lifetime, where it is now, and then look to 7, 14, and 21 years ahead to recognize what may evolve next. You cannot control the uncontrollable, but you can be self-aware and aware of your surroundings, and often when Uranus is involved, it's trying to help you break free of a path that's no longer good for you. It no longer serves your highest good, right? And sometimes we as humans get into our little habits, rhythms, and practices that we attach to that make us feel safe and organized. But every once in a while, Uranus comes in and blows all that up. And it's like, nope, You need to do it a whole nother way, whether you wanted to or not, and you usually have to be activated to do that. These disruptions can be painful, but that's not the intention. The intent is to wake you up to a new level of consciousness that changes you forever. If and when you deal with Uranus transits, it is good to know that things are changing and not to fight it, but to actually consciously choose what you want to do radically differently and what you want to co-create with the energies in order to accomplish your personal goals. The outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, affect more generations than individuals. But when it does engage, even from a distance, you can and will feel it, okay? So now Uranus activates infinite creativity, originality, and imagination. There's no humdrum, boring, same old, not when Uranus is involved. So again, you want to look to that area of life where these shakeups and changes need to happen and then consciously choose so that they're not imposed on you. This is also excellent for vision, sudden illumination, and the aha moments, right? Your individuality and your freedom needs are all up. In terms of Taurus, I would say food, sex, and money. How are we feeling? Are we having those needs met? Clarity, ingenuity, and keen perception is Uranus's thing. You know, this is what it can activate and wake up within us. Awakening the higher consciousness, it absolutely does that. It activates your resourcefulness, your unique genius and innovation. Again, we want to think differently than we have in the past. And of course, change, inventiveness, and progress is always associated with Uranus. Now, the shadow side of Uranus can be alienation, loneliness, isolation, and self-imposed exile, or exile of any kind, I should say. Restlessness and impulsiveness, it can really stir that up because you want to remember it's electrical, right? So we feel these little shocks and stimulations here and there that you want to either increase or decrease depending on your comfort zone, I guess. But it just causes us to be a little restless. Like we know we need to change something, but we're not maybe sure exactly what it is or what the first step is. Is a shadow side of disruption, instability, and upheaval, you know, not the good kind. Rebelliousness and defiance of authority. Again, sometimes that causes more trouble than it fixes. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing. I don't like authority either, but I'm not going to run straight at it and start a war. You know, that's just not the way it's going to go. Erratic mental patterns and unpredictable behavior, of course, is shadow side of Uranus. Chaos, confusion, disorder, and lack of control. So it might be that over these last few years, we've had to shake things up in our Taurus department, and that would be our personal security and creature comforts, how that works, how we function, the supply chain, COVID, all the craziness that interrupted our typical Western culture values, right, which we needed to shake up. But now, what are we going to choose to go forward? Because once we start talking about this alignment, the last time this alignment actually happened was 1941, and that of course, was the outcome of the Great Depression era. And that affected all kinds of countries, but we're here in America, and so we're going to talk about this one. But it really happened all over the world. Radicalism and challenges to conventional beliefs or practices. Chronic dissatisfaction and a constant urge for change. You know, it's hard to settle down and feel calm with Uranus energy kicking, zapping you this way and that way. You know, and so the other thing I wrote down last few times, Uranus was in Taurus. 1941 is the exact day that Jupiter and Uranus got there. But Uranus was there for 7-8 years, 1934 to 42. So we can track these cycles if you want to go back, 1850 to 58, 1767 to 75, which is exactly when America was founded, 1683 to 91. All of these would have coincided with huge social and collective shifts in terms of values and what's valuable, right? It's interesting that during this time, last time they created the Fed, which is credit, fake money. It's not real, and it's not even federal. It's a private company. And so there's all these things that went into play that literally have run their course. So on one hand tonight, I want you thinking your individual Taurus department and how that's awakening and changing and growing because of your consciousness and because of what you believe to be true or possible has evolved. Definitely be thinking about that, but also think of these larger cycles that are unfolding around us, whether they really affect us directly in our day-to-day or not. They're affecting us on the larger cycles. So if we just came out of the '08 housing crash and all the different things that we've been through, financial crises, let's say, in the last few years, what's the outcome of that, right? How do we go forward and claim new values and choose new things to be valuable? The other thing I would throw on the table here is that for the last 200 years, Jupiter and Saturn have been meeting up every 20 years. They meet every 20 years no matter what. But for the last 200, every 20 years, it's been in earth signs. So that tells us that the social agreement was the value was on earth signs, what our material wealth and our physical wealth and all the literal stuff, digging up in mama and needing Mother Earth to have wealth. Now, for the next 200 years, as of 2000 and 2020, this 20-year segment is where we are crossing over into the next 200 years of them getting together in air signs. So now the value is going to be on your consciousness, on your ideas. It's going to be air signs. It's going to be more creative and intangible. It's going to be where the value, the technology, all of this invisible stuff. That's where the social agreement is going to be for the next 200 years, that this is where the value is. So us dinosaurs, I'm struggling. I'm not going to probably make it into that technological age, really. But I know my value and that, you know what I mean? I know the values that I grew up with, but I can also totally see them changing. And I don't want to fight it, but at the same time, I'm not sure how much I can adapt to the super technology stuff. That's just not going to ever be my thing as a naturalist over here. I like Earth. I'm here for the Earth experience. I'm not here for the techie experience. I can do that on another planet another day. So this is the bigger thing that's happening behind the scenes as well, is where Uranus is cracking us open. Now, the special alignments that we should think about, there is an audio. I don't think it's long. It might be 11 minutes or something very short and sweet, where I talk about the Jupiter special alignments. But here I just want to do a quick reminder, because this is feeding into any ritual or ceremony you want to do, or any kind of intentions and manifesting and things that you're writing down tonight that you want to cultivate and create. So yeah, Jupiter and Uranus kick it off April 20th in Taurus. Last time they did that was 1941. May 23rd, Jupiter is going to connect with Neptune in an opportunity at 29 degrees, Taurus Pisces combo. So that's earth and water. This is our faith and beliefs and our spirituality and everything coming together. Taurus Pisces, we're making certain things real with our spirit team. And the last time Jupiter and Neptune did this in Taurus Pisces was the 1860s. So again, there's bigger cycles kicking around right now, I got to tell you. Jupiter on June 2nd is going to trine Pluto, because Jupiter will have moved to 1 degree Gemini and Pluto's lingering at 1 degree Aquarius. The last time they did that in Gemini Aquarius was the 1770s. So we're still talking huge cycles. And then August 19th, December 24th, and June 15th, like it's going to be 3 hits because of the retrograde. Jupiter in Gemini is going to square off with Saturn in Pisces. So check it, after this year of Jupiter in Taurus, in a good angle to Saturn in Pisces, where we did get clear on our spiritual values and practices that have evolved, where we can, I don't know about you, but my spirit team and my relationship with them has just evolved so dramatically in the last year that now we've got to recognize that where we were having ease and grace with beliefs and visions and mystical experiences and all that kind of thing, now is going to be a challenge to grow in our ideas and what we bring into form, essentially. So now we're not going to say it's bad. 90-degree angles are not bad. They're stepping stones. They build us a little staircase out of our situation. But they're also, what the visual I give is like a dead end where you're driving along and you hit a dead end and you have to turn left or right. It means you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. So it's like we've been exploring the possibilities for the last year. In the next year, we're going to be forced to make some decisions that are based on those values, based on what our spirit team told us was the right path for us as individuals, but also what is feeding into the new ideas and things that you're bringing into form. From that consciousness, what are you going to bring out of it in the next year? That's going to be a big deal. And the last time Jupiter and Saturn went at it like that was 1965. So that's about the closest one. The other ones were much longer ago. But that's still, the 60s, that's a long time ago. Some of us were just born then. So deep breath. Do we want to take a little quick pause? I will also say that I did a little overview. In 23 and 24, Jupiter in Taurus was doing good stuff. It was good. But as it moves into Gemini, it is going to square off with Saturn. And then 2025 is a little more Saturn dominated. So I like to warn y'all about these things too, because if Jupiter is dominating the year as it is this year, then it could be, very expansive, and we do lots of improvements and we make our changes because Uranus is there too. You do what you got to do. But that means 25 and 26, which are very Saturn dominated, then we're going to be getting real. We're going to be manifesting, creating structures, foundations, and boundaries are going to get recalibrated, all kinds of Saturn things, right? And at the same time, I'm just going to say 2025 looks slightly challenging, and 2026 has a lot more trines and sextiles, so more opportunities and blessings, okay? So we're gearing up. We're gearing up to know that 2025 is going to require certain steps and protocols and structural things that a lot of people don't like to deal with, but these are the little details that make the big vision work. So we want to honor that. And the big thing about 26, 27, if we can take care of our consciousness evolving and we can make the shifts with our reality and purpose with Saturn, then come 26, 27, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all get engaged. And it's very rare when the outer planets get engaged like that. So crazy, Uranus to Neptune, Neptune to Pluto. Like, come on, y'all. These are very rare. Neptune to Pluto, Uranus to Neptune, like they're all crossing over and getting together because Uranus is going to be in Gemini, Pluto's going to be in Aquarius, and Neptune's going to be in Aries. This is all air and fire. So they work really well together, but again, with that awakening of consciousness, of inspiration and transformation and things that air and fire represent, right? So let's be prepared for that. It is a lot more fire coming down the road, fire and air. We've been in a lot of earth and water lately, and there's more fire and air coming. So, come on in with this.
This is Kim.
Hey, baby.
Hey. So, just you asked earlier, so with Jupiter and Uranus, woo, okay. So I'll say, kind of like you were talking about with the houses, I started tracking, I was just tracking Jupiter. And I started tracking last year when Jupiter entered my sixth house. It wasn't until the beginning of this year when I realized Uranus was there the whole time too. And that Uranus had been in my sixth house since 2018. And so now I'm like, I've been working on health and service and my daily routine for a moment, but I didn't really realize it until both of the planets are leaving. They both leave that house this month, right? And so I was actually talking to one of my other teachers who I have he actually ended up putting it on a podcast. We were talking about Uranus leaving a house. What does that mean? What does it look like? And kind of like you're saying, us tracking through the houses. And so I asked, I said, what if there's a surprise as Jupiter's leaving my sixth house? And he said, well, that means that surprise is actually, especially if it was something that's going to need surgery, it's a surprise that's going to be fixed. It's at the end of the house. And it's going to be something that is going to totally be something that's fixed, rectified, whatever that word is we want to use. But I would just say I didn't realize, well, I wasn't awake to all of this, back in 2018. I'm awake to it now. And so now I'm really looking forward to, it's happening in the seventh house. So I'm really looking forward to it, to tracking what's going to happen in the seventh house in relationships and collaborations for the next 7 years. And then I'm excited to see what Jupiter is going to do for the next few months. So I'm excited about tracking all this now that I'm awake to it. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you. Anyone else got some aha moments? Okay. We're going to cover a little light and shadow Taurus energy because they're both moving through there. And these will be other things we can think about. The light expression of Taurus has to do with proper moral, spiritual, and financial values. Deep dedication to beauty and the beauty way. So even if you don't have Taurus activated, then you would do this in your Taurus house, which is the area of life. And if you're new to the calls of the community and don't know that, you're going to know that in your post-call goodies. I'll make sure you know. So this is where we want to do that beauty way. It's where we can be the master manifester, the creator, cultivator, and builder. That's Taurus's best juju ever. That strong ability to focus and be productive, okay? Taurus don't do nothing without knowing the outcome, okay? We are investing for a certain return in our Taurus department, and when we don't get that, it creates what we call a hungry ghost, which really should have been on the shadow list, but we'll talk about that. That's where you go after something, you manifest it, and then you're like, oh my God, this really didn't do it. It didn't satisfy me the way I thought it would. We call that a hungry ghost. The innate sensual connection to your six senses. Taurus is very embodied, and they translate life through their six senses, right? Gratitude for natural wealth and abundance. This is our natural gratitude zone where we're grateful for whatever we have, and we do that so that we can magnetize more. Healthy food, loving sex, and money with integrity. Okay, remember, I'm always saying food, sex, and money are what's associated with Taurus. But we want that healthy food, that loving sex, and money with integrity that doesn't have negative juju attached to it. Being organized, practical, and grounded. A healthy Taurus in our healthy house, that's where we're our most organized. Infinite potential and power to create. Again, just the master manifester in this zone. Sensuality and generosity of spirit is a part of our Taurus pieces. Creativity and innate sense of beauty, and the ability to make others comfortable. There's just something natural and comfortable in our Taurus zone. You'll know it by your own life, where you're comfortable and where you feel supported and protected and well fed and well cared for. That's what we're calling in for the new story, for the evolved consciousness, for the collaborations and things we want to do with other people, all of that. But we got to be mindful of the shadow. And again, Kimberly has a point. We might only be having hindsight now that makes more sense looking back on the year it's been in Taurus, waking things up or expanding things. What has that done for you? Have you gotten more present to your diet and exercise or your body in certain ways? Have you gotten more present to the beauty and vitality around you and in your environment? Because life is crazy and the world's upside down. So I'm constantly in here with my twinkle lights and flowers because I got to do what I got to do to keep it bright and sunny and happy and joyful in this space, in this realm, no matter what the world is doing. But we want to be mindful of these shadows too. Blockage, stagnation, apathy, and pessimism is very imbalanced Taurus. Low self-esteem, self-love, and self-value. One of the challenges in our Taurus department to develop that. And if you have it activated, it's definitely one of your lessons. Clutter, hoarding, or holding on over long. So far, the 2 or 3 actual true hoarders that I've heard about have all been Tauruses. I don't know what that's about, but that's my tracking. Extremes, all or nothing, feast or famine comes up with Taurus as well. Survival mode and poverty consciousness, feeling unworthy, all that kind of thing. Gambling and lack of commitment is a shadow Taurus thing. Imbalances around food, sex, and money. Again, with those extremes, feast or famine. Stubbornness, selfishness, and impatience. And before I go too far off food, sex, and money, the comfort seeking that comes with Taurus too, with that. That's part of what all that is. There's those spenders and the sexers and the eaters. We all got a little something going on somewhere to some level, to some degree. It's a comfort-seeking thing, and we might want to just look at how that's been evolving and how we could maybe clean it up a little. The mismanagement of resources. Again, that never enough, hungry ghost, always chasing something that never really satisfies is tricky. Lack of self-care and investment in self. So again, with the survival mode being so strong, sometimes we think that it's impractical to spend money on, let's say, a massage or a facial or something that makes you feel good and resets your energy field. In Taurus, it's an investment in you, honey. No shame, no blame, no guilt. Do it. It's what's going to make you stronger and more fortified to go do the building and creating that Taurus wants you to do, right? Isolation and self-imposed exile. Again, a lot of times, there's this fear and this comfort zone that we create in certain times and places in our lives. Any lack of generosity or being stingy, we know that's not real Taurus. That's not the way Taurus is normally expressed. So we know if we're feeling miserly and tight like that there's an imbalance. Something's wrong. There's a value issue, and let's address it, right? So now to the fun stuff. I hope that you all enjoy this, but I have a book called Myth Astrology by Raven Caldera, exploring planets and pantheons. And what I love is they have written a god or goddess into absolutely every single planetary placement. So we're going to read Jupiter in Taurus, which is Ganesha. I'm very familiar with Ganesha. And Uranus in Taurus for the Dagda, which is a Celtic mythological lord or god of some sort. So we're going to learn together, honey. And you think I know this because Celtic's supposed to be my thing, so I need to learn. But let's open to receive the messages that are just for you. From this one, if the elephant had to be classed under a sign, it would be Taurus. Immense, strong, and intelligent. They travel in protective family groups and stay with the wounded or dying members. Male and female elephants are referred to as bulls and cows, and they are descended from some kind of herd animals that did time in an aquatic environment. We think of elephants as silent, but recent studies have shown that they are quite talkative. The pitch of their voices, however, is so deep as to be mostly below the hearing threshold of mere humans. Like Taurians, they actually have a lot to say, but we don't notice it and so assume that they are silent and dull. In India, they were the symbol of wisdom and the most beloved god. The mythical explanation for Ganesha's elephant head was that he tried to keep his volatile father, Shiva, out of his mother's bedroom, and the angry destroyer god, who had been gone so long that the son and sire did not recognize each other, blew off his head in a fit of rage. When Parvati wailed that he had beheaded his own son, Shiva promised him the head of the first creature that came along. It happened to be an elephant, and thus Ganesha gained both a new head and a source of elephant wisdom. He is prayed to not just for wisdom, however, but for prosperity. Ganesha is a god of wealth, luxury, comfort, and good home cooking. All the things on a Taurus's wish list. Like every Jupiter god, he gives generously and open-handedly. By far, the vast majority of offerings made to him are for money. He understands why it's so needful and finds ways to let it come into his people's hands. People with this placement often have a little bit of Ganesha's magic. They may not be rich, but when they need the cash flow, it magically appears, if only enough to keep them for another day. This is the placement of money luck, but it only works if they are equally generous with the outflow. The Taurus Jupiter, who hoards his wealth, will find that no more of it mysteriously shows up. The planet of bounty expects you to aid him in his work if you want the handout. Ganesha carries an alms bowl in one of his forearms, showing that he expects as much generosity from his supplicants as he himself gives to them. Jupiter is also the sign of overdoing things, and Ganesha, true to his Taurus nature, is a glutton. His belly is huge and fat, symbolizing abundance, and he prefers to be offered huge amounts of food by his devotees. One day, when he had gorged himself on offerings so heavily that he could hardly walk, he decided to take a ride on his rat in order to stir up his digestion. A large snake slid across their path, and the rat reared and tossed him off. Ganesha hit the ground so hard that his belly burst open. In order to repair the damage, he seized the snake and wrapped it around his belly like a truss. The moon laughed at the sight, and in a fit of bull-like rage, Ganesha hurled one of his tusks at it, wounding it so badly that it still shrinks in pain every month. However, this was a rare outbreak of violence. For the most part, Ganesha is gentle, calm, and loving. He likes people, and people like him. Jupiter and Taurus people have this knack as well for appearing friendly and personable to members of all classes. Often they move in and out of many different social circles, unobtrusive but valued for their affable natures. The people in these different circles may not have any idea how solvent these natives actually are. They can pass as comfortably well off or humble working class as they choose. Ganesha's tusk also doubles as a writing pen. He is said to have written the Mahabharata with a tusk dipped in ink. He is the patron of literature and also the protector of children. Taurus is possessive, and no one messes with his family members. With the Jupiter influence, his protective nature can come out with an abundance of zeal, which is probably how Ganesha got his head blown off. His mother didn't need to be protected from his father, but in his Jupiter self-confidence, the Taurian possessiveness, he thought that he could stand up to the forces of destruction and win. A Jupiter in Taurus can also endow one with a wealth of common sense and the ability to see through the complexities to the shortest route. In another tale of Ganesha, the gods all gathered on their magical animals for a race around the world. Everyone laughed at the fat elephant-headed god who was riding a rat, symbol of canny practicality and survival. The rule was that whoever crossed the finish line first would be the most revered of all the gods. After the signal was given, the other divinities flew or raced around the earth. Ganesha considered the situation, rode his rat a few feet behind the finish line, and crossed it. At the other gods' wrath, they pointed out that the rule only specified that one must cross the finish line first, not that one had to go around the world beforehand. The other gods had to admit that he had found the loophole, and from that time on, Ganesha was the most beloved of all gods. Ganesha's association with money is such that he is the all-time favorite god of shopkeepers and businessmen in India. His shrines are kept in banks to keep them solvent, and if a bank in a town fails, all the shops turn their Ganesha figures to the wall for a day in mourning. We Westerners often have a strange attitude toward wealth. We all want it, but we don't like to admit that we want it. Those of us that have it want to show it off, but feel guilty about it. People who gain more wealth and rise in class tend to drop their poorer friends. We don't understand that wealth is for the spreading around, that the true measure of one's monetary status is how much you can give away to others and still remain solvent. It's a lesson that we desperately need to learn from Ganesha, the god of resourcefulness and plain old good cheer. Deep breath. So, we have this opportunity, like we said all along, to reset our values and what is really important to you and what is the story you want to tell behind that with Jupiter there. What kind of embodiment and experience qualifies as beauty and wealth to you? Like, how do you define those terms for yourself? Now, the Dagda, Uranus in Taurus, this is a whole nother animal. He was called the father of all and the Lord of perfect knowledge. These epithets implied that he was an all-powerful, omnicompetent, paternal deity, yet the Dagda of Celtic myth is nothing like the other father-lord gods in other pantheons, or even among the Celtic pantheon itself. Unlike the richly clad Zeus or even polished Lu, the Dagda, at first glance, does not seem anything like a lord king. He is pictured as fat, ugly, and pot-bellied with coarse manners. He wears only the short, rough tunic of a peasant and rawhide sandals. Instead of a spear or a sword, he carries an immense club, the weapon of the poorer classes. All Taurus placements are emotionally bound up with money, resources, and property. The Taurus keyword is I have, but when Uranus visits this normally solid sign, it creates a wealth of ambivalences toward it. The individual with Uranus and Taurus both wants money and fears it. He wants the luxuries that it brings, yet is repelled by the attitudes of the upper classes, whatever they may be in his culture. He may swing back and forth from pursuing wealth to throwing it away. He may be a trust fund baby who is guilty about his unearned income. He may pretend to be poor while hiding his wealth, or pretend to be rich while hiding being penniless. Somehow there's no contempt quite as strong as the repulsion one has for someone you secretly envy just a little. Like the Dagda, he may be a king who prides himself on just being, quote-unquote, one of the people, by rejecting the elaborate trappings of the conspicuous consumption. Or he might be an infiltrator who gets himself fed for free at affluent circles and laughs at the rich fools he is cheating. Uranus turns everything on its head, forcing people to reconsider what they think they know about how class and money should look. The Dagda's peasant manners contrast well with his Lord of Perfect Knowledge title, making us more conscious of the fact that education, and thus knowledge, is all too often a privilege of the moneyed classes. The idea that someone who lives a peasant lifestyle might know just as much as a college graduate, and possibly even about the same things, makes some people uncomfortable. That's what Uranus and Taurus wants us to think about. The individual with this placement may have his own prejudices about people who show off their education, who he perceives as assuming that they are a higher class of human just because they own a sheepskin. If he is especially inventive, he may find ways to use other people's money. Now, that's the other thing we should think about. With Taurus, it's about what you generate, what you create, and the money and the resources that you're able to generate. With Scorpio, it's other people's resources and using and manipulating other people's resources, or coming together and doing that. It's somehow sharing resources. So one is individual, but one is relational, let's say. So he's especially inventive about using other people's money. The Dagda owned a great cauldron that continually gave forth food and was never empty. It symbolized his place as the nourisher of his people and general fertility god, all good Taurus aspects. Many individuals with Uranus-Taurus combined energy are especially good at getting their humanitarian or at least innovative projects paid for with the money of those richer people that they both envy and dislike. It's a combination of practicality and forward-thinking inspiration that is more interested in concrete accomplishments than vague theorizing. Okay, that's another thing. The whole Aries-Taurus zone, they want to do it, be it, have it, experience it, literally. They don't want to talk about it. I don't know how many people are on here that are part of Yeye's crew, but I showed her a crystal one day, and she cussed me out in front of everybody. She was like, don't show me shit you ain't planning to give me. I had to run out and get her a crystal just like it. It was crazy, and she's a big-time Taurus. So getting their humanitarian or innovative projects paid for by other folks is a good idea. Let's marinate that one. It's a combination for practicality and forward-thinking inspiration. Okay, again, we don't want to theorize. We want to build something real. Let others worry about feeding the world. The Uranus and Taurus will get a grant and set up a soup kitchen and feed one neighborhood. Of course, the Dagda's ever-full cauldron, redolent of Taurian's love of food and drink, has a Uranian twist to it. At a yearly ritual ordeal on the 1st of November, the day of the Celtic New Year, the Dagda was required to eat an enormous meal of porridge that bubbled up from a hole in the ground, after which he had to make love to a woman. If he was not able to stuff himself with the entire amount and still perform brilliantly afterward, the future harvest would be thin. Fortunately, he was usually up to the challenge. This reflects the Uranus and Taurus's other ambivalence, that of luxury. He may swing back and forth between gorging himself on physical excess and retreating to aesthetic self-denial. This is especially an issue with food and sex. He may be prone to the binge-purge behavior, which is worse for his health than merely being fat or thin, okay? It's not good for your emotional or spiritual health either. This is also the Taurus placement most likely to have a volatile temper. The Dagda's club was so huge that it took 8 men to carry it, and when it dragged along the ground, it left a furrow as large as a frontier dike. When he swung it, he could kill 9 men with one blow. A Uranus and Taurus can be noted for incredibly destructive rages, between which he may repress his anger. He may need to learn moderation before he damages himself, his reputation, or someone else. The Dagda was known for his skill in building great fortresses, another link to Taurus the builder. And a Uranus in Taurus is most often triggered into rage when someone breaches the walls of his carefully protected home, insulting his family or ideals, both of which he considers worthy of extreme defense. He may even be a radical conservative instead of a practical radical, using extreme and unusual methods to promote a philosophy that is actually backward-looking. The Dagda had one artistic and accomplished side, however. He was a harpist, which is appropriate as Taurus is a musical sign. One of his powers was that he could call the seasons with his harp, a great boon to the farmer who faced a late spring frost or an early autumn sleet. In this way, he was called upon by the common folk who made their living from the land. The oxen that pulled the plow were blessed in his name. With the other end of his club, the handle rather than the killing part, he could restore men to life as easily as he had destroyed them. And this is the secret of a Uranus in Taurus. His destructive urge grows out of his need to aid people and eliminate whatever is in the way of his doing that. It will take much careful thinking on his part to be able to do the former without resorting to the latter. So, deep breath. We want to rebuild our world without destroying Earth in the process, without destroying the beauty in the process. And I don't know about y'all, but while Uranus has been there, it's almost like it's been chipping away at the things in my Taurus department until right now, as we come to the last 6 and 7 years of it, you start to realize how much you've changed in the last 7 years. Just think about that alone. So this is our guidance for 420. And this is what I want to say about this too, is that if you want to create a little ritual, you get a plate, a glass of water, a clear glass of water, a candle, and write out your petition of the new story you want to tell, of the liberation you want to feel, of the new level of consciousness you want to experience, or whatever it is in your embodiment, right? Because this is Taurus. We want to actually experience these things. They can't be ideas and concepts. They need to be actual experiences that we're calling in for a new level of comfort and security based on new values and priorities, right? Based on all that we've learned in the last 12 to 50 years, depending on how old you are. What have you learned about your values and priorities and about what it takes to function in a body on the earth? In which case, this guidance was so juicy from Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela Eakins. I chose the Earth Sister. Now, I like this because in here we're going to cover so much ground in one little card. But one of the things I love about this particular deck is that she combines astrology and mysticism and the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, all that good stuff. But astrology's in here too. And she considers Earth Sister to be Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So the other thing I'd like you to be marinating right now is that 22 to 23 was Jupiter in Aries. 23 to 24 is Jupiter in Taurus. And 24 to 25 is Jupiter in Gemini. And when Jupiter rolls through that little corridor and it activates a whole new 12-year cycle of consciousness and beliefs and, again, what we believe to be true or possible, we are resetting on very personal levels. Aries is you, the individual. Taurus is your values. Gemini is your thinking and how you communicate and express yourself. So Jupiter is expanding that for all of us. If you're going to look at those houses, for those who know your astrology, you know the areas of life that it's just expanded. And what I say earlier, Saturn comes through a couple years later and hits those same zones and activates those same zones to manifest something, to bring something into form. So right now we're birthing new consciousness in such a beautiful way. But again, open to receive the messages that are just for you. Release the rest. The Earth Sister represents the sphere of Earth, the physical body. She brings the 4 elements into balance and holds pairs of opposites in equilibrium within her form. She symbolizes complete balance and total success. Therefore, she also represents the completion of a cycle. The Earth Sister is the brink of transformation. She is careful and diligent and has managed her affairs with the utmost attention and the supreme application of the vast stores of knowledge and intuition which have been made available to her through the observation of her fire father, water mother, and wind brother. Deep breath. Also, I meant to say the key word on her card is revelation. So we will all be getting our own revelations here. Thank you very much. Her ability to accomplish any work, particularly the great work, on the physical plane is so well developed that it appears to be natural, as if she is operating by instinct alone. However, she has developed herself systematically through the most intense course of study, and her success is due to her wise assimilation, integration, and application of sound ideas. Deep breath. She is an innovator, but she is moved through the system and understands firsthand its limits. Therefore, she is also qualified. In her delicacy and innocence, she may seem fragile, like a spring garden, but she has increased her powers to the highest levels. She holds great psychic power. Because she has worked so hard at developing her powers and because she has done so prudently and diligently, A great wonder emerging from the world beyond the consciousness is about to be revealed to her. This revelation is her reward, and she will share it with the universe. I say, deep breath. She is pregnant with the secret of the future, about to give birth to a multifaceted diamond, the most enduring of all gems. Earth Sister calls her womb the eye of God because the wholeness and sight of all things, perfectly in balance on all four planes, has come to rest within her. She calls her womb the light of truth. She has been the perfect receptacle, and the seed of creation has been implanted within her. She is the wondrous force in physical form. She is the mountain in fruition, the joy of life incarnate. Internally, Earth Sister knows that the path has not been easy, but she also knows that if she had to try to disassociate herself from the responsibility of coming to terms with her physical existence through physical or psychological illness and so on, she would have to come back again to master it. Living life, she knows, like learning magic, demands discipline. One has to come down to earth, become totally grounded in the physical existence before the homeward stretch can be started. The Earth Sister's meditation states, embracing all that exists, I become bright and shine forth. I gladly accept the powers of the universe and act in harmony with the sequence of time. On winter ice, I use caution. There is no use in fighting winter. There is a rich profusion of plants and trees, but when the forces that bring such vegetation forth are inactive, the wise one avoids the limelight. The most secret and glorious aspect of myself, now concealed, will unfold as time ripens. Such an incredible beauty lies within that its immensity defies comprehension. Deep breath. And I want to do the card symbology because it paints a picture. The Earth Sister is green and represents the peak of the mountain in fruition. She is pregnant, giving birth to light. Her body is a vehicle for all that is sacred on earth. Her ears are physically transformed because she has given herself over to hearing acutely. She hears the message in the sound of Om. She has called upon the spiral force of creation, the mighty cosmic power, which has answered the call and moves all about her head. She is sparkling with energy, flow, and life force, the life force of the universe which moves through her with every breath. She is the full completion of the spark of Fire Sister, herself in spirit. Earth Sister is the essence of transfiguration. Her power comes from having and being a physical form. Her power to create comes from the fact that she is Earth, the limitless substance from which all things are made. Deep breath. So that is our guidance. Did Kimberly have any 2 cents on Pamela?
I don't have any 2 cents on Pamela. The only thing I was going to say is 4/20/2028 is a 248 day, which is a manifestation triad day. So everything you've said about manifestation goes with the numerology of that day, and then change, because it's a 14, which equals a 5, all about change. And whenever I think of Uranus, I think about change. So I can't wait to be in alignment that day for some things that I just need to go internal and think, hey, what am I going to do that day, and how am I going to do it, and then how is that going to project into the future? So yes, thank you.
Okay. And you did just say 4/20/2028, and I don't know if you prophesized it.
I'm sorry.
But I know you meant 4/20/24. Yes, y'all. We might want to look at that date, though, and see, because she is a prophet. Can't really be psychic without meaning to be. Spirit just be working through her. So peace and love. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And I will kick out this replay. Will go up on the YouTube and podcast channels as soon as possible. And the goodies will go out to tell you where Taurus is for you, so that you know where this evolution of consciousness and liberation and freedom is coming for you. So thank you, everyone. Reach out when you need to. Join me next time. This is Kelly Beard signing off.